Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to Cool's Reviews and our continued look at Goosebumps of the Vanishing. As per usual, David's here, Grayson is here, and it looks like Nolan is back this week. And today we're going to be talking a kind of classic Goosebumps title, but seeing how they tie it in with the overall story that they're telling in the Vanishing. So I guess we'll hop over to you, David, real quick. You got the classic book cover behind you with our monster librarian. What did you think of the book itself, if you read it?
Yeah, the book was fine. I mean, I think it fit in with the other Goosebump books of the time, where there was kind of a twist with like who the actual monster was at the end, kind of thing. The book was fine. As far as relating it to this episode, though, maybe 10%, 15% transference. Not even the same title, because they changed it from The Girl Who Cried Monster to The Boy Who Cried Monster, right, so that it could be about our favorite egg roll stealing delivery boy.
I mean, he does steal a lot of egg rolls.
What are you talking about? They're all there.
They're all there. I've got all four of the egg rolls. Yep, all four of them. It's like, oh my goodness.
All four of the egg rolls in your order of 6 are safely arrived.
Right.
None fell out.
And just because I do have questions, since it's one of those ones that, again, that's one of the books that I haven't read. Can I get a quick little rundown of what happens in the book for the twisting bits so I can compare, I guess?
The main part of what they took from it is just that somebody claiming, oh, there's a monster, like the librarian's a monster, and nobody believes them. And then when they show up to check it out, it's like, oh, everything's fine. So in the episode, that's similar to how he told his parents, like his hand's hanging out of his head. And then his mom shows up, everything's totally fine. In the book, it turned out that the girl and like her family are monsters.
Oh, is the librarian also a monster too?
No.
Yeah. No, well, in the book he is
kind of, but not the same as like what it's like,
because
they thought they were all humans.
Yeah, at the end it like is revealed that the parents have fangs, but the kids don't yet because they haven't grown in. Like they come in at some age or something, and the parents eat the librarian because there can only be like one monster, and they were afraid if he chased other people away, they would find out about him.
It's like feuding sex of some sort. Like
it's like you can't be the Highlander-esque kind of thing. Like there can be only one.
Yeah, it's like it's just our family and not
But the girl did. You ate it, Chief. Yeah.
Right. So the way they did that in this one was basically he is actually like some kind of monster thing, but the parents don't believe him, and that's about where it ends. They just wanted to use a title. I mean, it's not quite as bad as how Monster Blood got done dirty, but it's still pretty far from the book.
Yeah, I would say it probably weaves it in better than like Haunted Car or Monster Blood. As far as like,
I think Haunted Car weaved it in fine. It was a haunted car. What else do you want?
Well, I was just about to say like Haunted Car. Like you had a haunted car. What else are you asking
And it
for?
was in over 50% of the episode. So
right. I mean, the whole episode they pretty much spent in the car.
Yeah, and it was haunted. It was possessed by a spirit. So
what else would you like, Keegan?
Yeah.
Was it possessed by a spirit or by something else that we'll find out?
It was the spirit of Trey. Of Junior.
Junior, yeah.
Yeah, the only other element I think they really took was CJ, our delivery guy, like teasing his younger sibling about and like telling like zombie stories, I guess. In the book, the girl teases her little brother with like monster stories, and again it's kind of like the Boy Who Cried Wolf or whatever, where she keeps talking so much about it no one believes. So yeah, I mean they weaved it in, I guess, but I don't know. Grayson, you read the book, right? This is one that I know you mentioned when we talked about twist endings and stuff.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite books growing up as a kid. So, I mean, it was decent. It wasn't, what I thought it was going to be. Kind of disappointed that they wasted the title on this segment, but I mean, I guess it fits. But again, I think if they kind of let the story cook a little bit more as we go throughout the rest of the season, it could have been done a little better, but hey, for what it is, at least it's not Monster Blood. So
not only that, but I also feel like this is almost one of those stories that could have been a season-long arc.
100%.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Or the jumping off point for a teenage girl discovering that she's from a family of monsters, and how does that affect her life going forward or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
I think it could have been more crucial and essential to the plot than this one, which ultimately kind of ended up being more of a filler episode again. It kind of moves the story forward a bit when we find out that basically, Dr. Brenner's kind of being taken over and is not really what he was before. But beyond that, not a whole lot happens in this episode.
I mean,
Yeah, I
David,
would
to your
say
point too.
it. Oh,
Go
go,
ahead,
go
Keegan.
ahead. I was just gonna say it actually. I saw a lot more callbacks again to the original "Stay Out of the Basement" book in this one versus
Yeah, more
Yeah.
so than the
girl.
book called Monster. Yes.
yeah.
I mean, but to go back to your first point, David, if they're not going to do like an anthology series, if they were to do like 2 to 3 stories a season, just to give it some time to breathe and at least give us a satisfying arc to kind of tell what's going on, like it could be more of like an observational where it is kind of an anthology, but it all takes place in the same neighborhood type story where it all kind of conglomerates into one like major event that's like an original idea without affecting the books. I'd be all for that. But I think with all the stories they're using, they all, like even Camp Nightmare, that could be a whole like season long story, which is coming up here in the next couple episodes.
Yeah, 'cause you
easily,
could-
easily Camp Nightmare could be its own series.
Yeah, you
100%.
could
Like a
also
haunted
tie
camp,
in like
like the
Werewolf
book
of Fever Swamp into Camp Nightmare a little bit too.
Exactly. Like if they're not going to do an anthology series where it's like one episode is just each story, then they should start condensing down to let these stories have some life to them, or talk to R.L. Stein to create some new stories to have a whole arc throughout the actual season. Do a little nod here and there, like
See,
a
what
can of Monster
what I
Blood
think
or
would have
something.
been really interesting to approach Goosebumps coming back. What they should have done was take a couple of the classic ones, like Haunted Mask thing, like Carly from that, maybe Andy from Monster Blood, like just some of the bigger ones that we know, and then have it that these stories took place in the same universe, because nothing says they can't. Very few of the books are very like secluded where it has to be its own thing, but take some of these little broader ones and have those kids like run into each other for whatever reason, like they're graduating and they end up at the same college, or something like that.
Yeah.
And they realize that they've had this like paranormal things like happen or whatever, and have all of that tie to some bigger mystery of what they're having to solve, of why were they the ones that were involved in these like super weird horror situations growing up as kids or whatever. And kind of almost like the multiverse coming together almost of these other books that you've read and linking them together and having those characters interact and have to face something together within the past, having been through stuff like the Haunted Mask, Monster Blood, Werewolf of Fever Swamp, whatever. I think that would be really cool, and seeing like how their lives had continued after the twist endings of whatever, and bringing that all full circle of why did this happen.
That would be super cool. And like as you say that, I think of like I'm like, so you want kind of like Crash but for Goosebumps.
Kind of, yeah.
Or a little lesser known movie that I don't know if any of you gentlemen have seen. It's a movie called 11/11 or 11/14 or something like that. And it's I don't know if it was before Crash or it might have been. Either way, point is, it's one of those things that one event literally ties all this like groups of like people together that happens at the the name of the movie, I think, like I said, is 11/11 or something, or 11/14.
But like at that time,
everything, they all literally converge at 11/14. Like that's the time.
Yeah. So there
this
could have
happens.
been something like relating to Goosebumps or whatever that caused whatever it was that happened to them as kids growing up and affected. Because I mean, these kids are all gonna be all shades of fucked up after these things happen to them.
Oh yeah.
So some of them are going to bounce back better than others, but they're all going to be affected by the things, especially people like Andy from Monster Blood that has been through this 4 times now, or or the Say Cheese and Die. Like people literally died all around these kids.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's to that point too. It's like if they were going to do something like that, like have it to where everything kind of like intertwines in the series, where like you don't see what happens. Like let's say you have one story that comes up earlier in the season and like they come across like the leftover ooze of the monster blood. We don't know what that is until we get to that episode, or like there's an explosion in the back somewhere in one episode. And when we get to that, we see that kind of happen. And then it all kind of conglomerates into one major event, like, 11/14 or something like that, to make it feel still interconnected while giving,
That's what I would have liked. It would have been true to the books and like given them their respect, but still allow them to craft a new story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they even start the flashback in this in 1994 when a lot of these Goosebump books took place anyways. So they could have tied them in somehow.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think of all the stories, I think this whole vanishing aspect with like the mine and the kids and all is really the only thing that's like not from a Goosebump book. It's kind of like they made their own story and decided what Goosebump books could we shove into this.
Yeah,
It definitely feels like that.
yeah, I can see that. Well, Grayson, do you want to run us down the synopsis of The Boy Who Cried Monster? I almost said the book title, but
I'd try to keep this at like a minute. I don't think we really need to do too much. If they're watching they watch the episode.
Yeah, we pretty much we've talked about this more than we probably should have. But basically, the synopsis is CJ, as we said, teases his little sister, goes to deliver food to Tony. Tony ends up sneezing his eyeball out, freaking out CJ starts telling his mom how he was not able to drop the food off after they've had a deep discussion, and progresses the story from there.
I think it's weird that he didn't immediately like call 911.
Right? I was like, you just leave the guy there hanging with
like didn't try to help him at all. It's just like, go.
Your eye's hanging out. Bye. Like, I gotta tell my mom. Yeah. And for clarification, the movie is 11/14. And it came out in 2003. And it actually has some like decently big named people in there. Like Hilary Swank and Patrick Swayze, apparently. So that movie was before Crash, because Crash was like 2008 or 9. But anyways, yes. Just had to throw that out there for clarification. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why, like, that's exactly it. Like, why would you just run? Oh, your eye fell out. See ya. Like, I'm out of here. Like, what? I just got to tell my mom. What? Why didn't you exactly that? Like, why didn't you call somebody that wasn't your mom? Like, also immediately, because most people would be like, oh my God, this dude's eye's hanging out. Hello, can we get an ambulance or something?
Yeah, or like run across the street to like the neighbors, be like, yo,
right.
This guy needs help.
This guy's eye, yeah, his eye's hanging out. Like that's not normal.
It's very unrealistic to think that he would just jump back on his car or his little scooter thing and drive all the way back
take off
and be like, I couldn't give him the food because his eye came out.
Because his eye was hanging out of his face. Yeah, that's what I was. So that's a good point. Like I didn't think about that while watching it, but now that you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, because that's the logical response here.
And like that whole drive back, is he's just thinking in his head like, yes, this is correct. This is what I should be doing.
Like this dude's a monster. Yeah. Like what? Great question.
Because he doesn't think he's a monster or something. He just thinks like, oh shit, something bad happened to this guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like they did that just to feed into like the Goosebumps. I'm not going to really do anything because I need to tell my parents and they got to not believe me.
Yeah, the only way that this would have been like that would have been if it was out and he was like, yeah, hold on. And like shoves it back and he's like, there we go. Or something, like acts like it's totally normal.
Cool.
Then, if it would have changed until after David Schwimmer like quaffs his hair, that would have made way more sense. But
right. Yeah. Instead, he leaves right in the thick of there being like something wrong and just thinks, I'm gonna go all the way back to the store.
Yeah, and he doesn't even drop off any of the other orders,
No.
So, yeah, you would think this guy has his eye hanging out, goo, as he's saying, is dripping from it. Tell somebody. I don't know. Call 911. Even if you don't want to be there, call 911.
Look, he popped it back in. It couldn't be that bad.
Literally, my reaction would have been like, man, you better give me a bigger tip than you were going to.
Oh,
and he was already asking 20%. So
25%.
25%.
And then on top of that, it's one of those ones that I don't know how much some soup costs, but he gave him a 20. Like at the when his mom came, he handed him a 20, and I was like, that's a pretty hefty tip for.
I gotta assume, I would say for like a small thing of soup and delivery for like a small thing like that, probably like $10.
I was gonna say $10-11 maybe.
Yeah. He's getting almost a 50% tip. It looked like.
Yeah, but either way, that's what I'm saying. I was like, damn, he handed him a 20 on a bowl of soup. That's a hefty tip.
He probably got it the Aki way.
But yeah, that was very random way to react to that.
Yeah, I think it was maybe the only way the writers could have think of how to create the tension with him and his mom to get him fired. I mean, I don't know.
No, I think what would have been better is if we would have seen a history of people calling, complaining about their food missing, and him making up different stories of what happened to the food. Like, I was
With
attacked by
monsters or
this
something,
little
yeah.
dog. No, but like kind of real, like actual excuses. And then his excuse for an entire order not showing up is, oh no, he's a monster. And then she's like, you know what? I fucking put up with all these other excuses you came up with, and now you're telling me it's a goddamn monster. You know what? You're fired. You're out.
Right.
Yeah, CJ, you're a 20-year-old kid. You can't be saying that. Like, we're done.
CJ, you're 38.
Jesus Christ.
You
Well,
still
no,
in my
it's
house.
crazy.
You're out of here.
Well, it's crazy too because like it's one of those ones that they had to do that just for the simple fact that like he was literally there telling his sister or whoever it was like a stupid like monster story, you know what I mean? Like just to like mess with her or whatever. So it's like it literally has to happen like right after that. Of course. But also speaking of like efficiency bit, delivering like one bowl of soup and not having anybody else's like food or whatever seems like a terrible use of efficiency. But that's just me, you know.
Well, I mean, DoorDash does that sometimes, where
Well,
it's
I
just
mean-
one order. So maybe that's what they're. But as busy as they looked, it doesn't make sense for them to have one delivery person taking one
Right.
order at a time.
Well, that right, and that's what I was gonna say. Like that's what part that drives me crazy is I was like,
Yeah.
so they have this busy restaurant or whatever, and these people are ordering stuff, but like you're only gonna send them out like one order at a time. What kind of like that irks my efficiency brain just so hard. Like you have a couple of other deliveries. Like there you can, you know, the city's a big place. You can hit a lot of different places, you know, on the way to or on the way from or whatever. Like it's just, yeah. But I was like, that's crazy to me that you only had this man deliver soup.
And she wonders why people are complaining about undelivered orders.
Right.
Yeah, it's just I don't know the believability of this one. Just the realistic things didn't work out.
Yeah, with how old they made these kids, it kind of felt like he was too old to be still making up stories. So it probably should have been aged down a little bit more if they wanted it to be more close to the actual books. But yeah,
Because he'd
I
be
agree.
about 18 almost, like 17, 18. You'd think his parents would be like, is there something wrong with you?
It's like, hey, buddy, are you riding the regular bus to school, or is it a little bit shorter than that?
Like, why
come
is
on.
my basically adult son claiming that your eye was hanging out if that wasn't actually what's happening? Like, they have to think that he's at least a little mentally challenged. If
Right.
they're like, oh, he's telling his lie. Like, come on.
Right.
Yeah, do we have to contact the psychiatric hospital? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, we should have you tested for something, at least.
Did you go out raving again and you're acting like you didn't? Stop doing that.
Don't do
Now,
that.
if the mom would have been like, are you on drugs? Like, okay, that's at least an excuse of like why maybe. Actually, that would have been a great side plot if in his delivery gig he was also like using the restaurant as a front to like
Ooh.
sell drugs. Like if they called in and ordered a specific thing, he would deliver that, and that's how he's really making his money. That would have been realistic New York.
True. But I don't know. I think it's also one of those ones that they're trying to keep this relatively PG to PG-13-ish. Like, and I say that because obviously, like, you know, towards the end of the episode, Dr. Schwimmer gets his block literally knocked off. So
But he's fine. He's still up and talking.
he's cool. I'm cool. Yeah.
Okay, now remind me, isn't this also the first episode where we were introduced to Hannah?
The ghost,
Uh,
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
but we don't know that. We just know that she, like, he doesn't know that.
But it was pretty obvious, like.
But
what it was.
Devin doesn't know that just from us seeing the footage before. Devin thinks that it's just this girl.
See, I wondered because when he turns around, he seems like he's kind of freaked out when she's just gone.
Well,
Like
he-
she
I don't think
vanished.
no,
She
because have you
She
seen it all
Batmaned
yet?
him, you know? Like,
Keegan, have you seen it all?
No.
Yeah, no, this dude totally just thought she was a girl.
100%. Yep.
Even at the end of this episode, even though his dad got his fucking head cut off and was still talking, he was like, okay, you guys go do that. I'm going to go find Hannah. He wouldn't be doing that if he thought she was a ghost.
Okay.
He thought it was this cute chick that was into him.
yeah. I mean, generally, that's how that goes sometimes. And this is why I never believe any cute chick that's into me. Because they
I
can always
mean,
be a ghost.
I don't care
also-
who the
I
IRS sends.
also-
I'm not paying taxes.
I also don't understand this because as soon as Hannah came in, it's as if all the feelings for Frankie just went out the window.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was going to say, like, that was another
Like how?
bit that-
So that just collapsed. That's just not a thing.
well, and,
Well,
and you
And
know
especially
what,
then they
because
bring
they-
it back again later. So I don't get it.
in
Yeah,
his
they
fairness,
just kissed before in the
They literally
episode
just kissed the
before.
night before.
Yeah.
right. And I was going to say,
We've
but
established on
to-
this channel before. Ghost boners are stronger than regular boners. Okay.
I was gonna say, like, which leads us into ghost blowies. Yeah, no, it's one of those ones that no, like, to be fair though, Dave, like, I get your point of, like, that just looks like it was like, oh, like out the window, like randomly. Yes, they kissed, you know what I mean? But it's one of those ones that she obviously is like, I gotta go back to Trey, like it, you know what I mean? And like my man's is kind of, he's obviously feeling a little hurt.
Okay,
I need you. What if I need you?
But she never explicitly says that. And if he has had such a big crush on her, you'd think he'd be like, well, we just kissed last night. Let me give it at least a couple days to see what happens. I mean, I get moving on after like a week being like, well, if she's going to stay with him, fine. I'm going to go with this new hottie. But give it a week, my man. I mean,
right. But you also got to remember, like, the wound is fresh, sir. Like,
right. So then, like, so that makes it even more unbelievable.
But
to bring us full circle, the boy's just bussing. All right.
Because like, if you're
he's busting all over that city.
You're gonna try to You're gonna try to put a Band-Aid on your cut as soon as possible, right?
Not if you're not even sure it's a cut yet.
Oh, it's a cut.
No, because literally
she wants to go back to the douchebag. Like,
but she never said that. She just said, "Hey, he's in the hospital. I feel like I need to be there," which I feel like that's reasonable. Yeah, considering that they dated for a while before, this would at least be like, "Hey, are you okay?" She didn't kiss him. There was no like overt affection towards him that Devin saw. So yeah, I'm still also, like, hey, things are kind of weird. He was in the hospital. He almost died. Like, I get it. We saw him as a goo monster. Yeah. I dropped a car on him.
He was a goo monster.
I'm gonna give it a little time to shake out. Not just, well, this random mystery girl nobody's ever seen showed up. She wants to take me to the place that I know weird shit happens. Seems fine. Let's go.
Well, especially because like that scene where the dad comes in and is like, "You're gonna marry him one day," and she's like, "I don't know about that." Like that was in front of Devin, so like Devin heard that too. Like it's
right.
Not like,
so he knows
your daughter-in-law. Yeah.
Like he like. It's obvious that it's a very kind of sticky social situation at the moment. Devin, like, clearly should have been like, all right, like, let's see how this plays out. We'll give it a little time.
See how
I agree, move on when you need to, but the dude didn't even give it a full 24 hours.
Well, I forget. Did they play did he already do that whole, like, I'm not as smart as you, my sister, thing yet? Or does that not happen yet?
Yeah, I think that was in the Monster Blood episode.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that was the last episode.
I mean, this just kind of goes to show Devin's a little dumb. All right, he's pretty knuckle draggery throughout this whole thing, because if he's that impulsive just to hop on the next chick that just says hi in a ghost form, this man may not have it all there.
Also, okay, I'm sorry. They're all over 18, so I feel okay saying this. Frankie's way cuter than Hannah. Just, I gotta say, that was not a...
I was trying to think back. I was like, yeah, I can guess.
Hey, Chris Hansen, when did you get here?
Right?
Hey, man, yeah, I just gotta go.
Did anybody hear a loud knocking on David's door? That's crazy.
Hold on, I didn't think I ordered pizza, but
FBI, open up.
Like all series, most of these people were played by like 20-something-year-olds, so I don't.
Yeah,
feel
as per
bad.
Usual. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Plus, they did age him up to college, if not like pretty much.
Yeah, going into college
age at this point. Yeah.
Well, no, they do. They freaking hit him with the what is it like? Say it was like a vampire show or something like that. Same thing. Dude was like main vampire guy was like 30, but they're like, yeah, he's high school age, like 18, 19. You're like, no, he looks 30. Like, don't play me on this one. Yeah, but I mean, like at the same time, I get it, because like if anybody actually like uses appropriate aged individuals, like they all look like children. It's very weird how it works sometimes. So that's why you need people in their like middle 20s or whatever to be like actors.
Honestly, and we could do a whole commentary on society about this. I think that's what's caused a lot of issues, is that everybody's idea of what a teenager is not actually like most teenagers.
Oh yeah. But also, it was one of those ones that I was looking at my my yearbook every once in a while, and I was like, man, me as like a 17-year-old kid, awkward as hell looking, you know? So it is definitely one of those ones that I think it messes with people's perceptions, for sure.
Yeah, no one's walking out there in the designer clothes that they have on the set, which kind of makes you feel even more awkward about it. But It's we're seeing the 20-year-olds like try to still act like they're in high school or like they're on the cusp. It's like a good-ish age because they're far enough out, but still young enough to play that innocence. But it's I think it's definitely made it a weird, as David said, impact on the conversations that we can have about that.
Absolutely.
But I do gotta say,
is 21. So
21?
they're all in their early 20s. So
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
all the
I
actors
think-
and actresses or whatever.
even David Schwimmer's in his 20s.
David
Nice.
Schwimmer,
His 20s of 20 something years of acting. Yeah, definitely.
20
Yeah, the
squared.
20th anniversary of Friends, right?
Real quick, I do
Yeah,
gotta say this.
I think Jade, I think the girl who plays Cece was one of the actual youngest, and she's still 20.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But I will say for the soundtrack for this episode, I was kind of surprised. I don't know if you guys have seen the music video for it, but Littlefoot,
I have.
Bigfoot by Childish Gambino.
I knew where you were going with that, Grayson. As soon as I was
Dude.
like, "Yep." Mostly because that song. First of all, that music video is crazy. Like I watched that, I think, in the first day that it came out. Right, like I was like one of the first. Well, I don't know if I was one of the first, but in my brain, like first people to see it, just because it was like, oh, I was like, because first of all, I love Gambino, right? Like it was just one of those things that Donald Glover is like probably one of my like favorite actors, musicians,
Yeah, one of the
writers.
best.
Like,
Well, I'm glad to hear you feel that way. We actually have a special guest,
that
Donald.
would
If you'd
be-
like to jump on,
Don, that would be great. Love that.
what would you do if Donald Glover really like came on? Like, hey guys,
Dude, I don't.
I might
don't
Troy him like he did with LeVar Burton, be like, oh.
Right? Yeah,
I just wanted an autograph. I didn't want to meet him.
Yeah, I didn't want to meet him. You can't disappoint a picture. Yeah, but it's one of those ones that I probably would do some shit like that. Like that's because that's one of those ones like I don't do the get starstruck kind of thing like too much, but like I don't know, I like him and respect him that much that I probably would fangirl just a little bit. But yeah, it's one of those. So that music video is like wild, and then you listen to like the lyrics and all this stuff, and you're like, huh, this is it's like what the song is about and the subject of it is crazy. And then like I heard it in this and I was like, why is this in here? Like this, like I get it. It's one of those ones that like like Semi-Charmed Life, how that song is actually about doing crystal meth. But it's like super fun and super poppy, and like they played it all over the radio, and then they were like, wait a minute, this song's about doing crystal meth, and like, yeah, we just you wanted something crazy, something fun, something poppy like that. We gave exactly that, and the subject matter doesn't, you don't really care about the subject matter.
Yeah, to that point, it's like if Michael Bay like made a new Transformers movie and used "This Is America" in like a pro-America shot, that is totally not what that song is about in any way, shape, or form.
Right, and it's
what are we doing? That felt so out of place.
It did. So like I completely agree with you, Grace. And I was like, this is an interesting place for this song for sure. And I was
That's
like,
going to
it's
be in
like
the
hobby,
Transformers G.I. Joe movie that's coming up. It's going to be like the first time we see the team all together. Like doors are going to be opening with like smoke and stuff. And this is America. And like the G.I. Joes come out.
Don't you slip in,
Transformers.
don't catch you slipping though. Yeah, like it just.
It's like,
And then somebody's going to be like, Bumblebee, this isn't the time for music. He's going to be like, and stop the song.
Right. No, it's so random like that to hear that one. But it is one of those ones that, again, even though the weirdness of having that song in an episode like this, with like its like subject matter or whatever is still cool. You know what I mean? Just to hear like songs like that. But also all the other songs they had in this episode. Again, whoever did the music for this show, just again, A+, man. Like.
yeah, dude, them changes by Thundercat, dude, that was a solid lead up to the actual intro of just
Right.
the whole scene right there. That was fantastic.
I was like, because it's one of those ones that and that was another one too that I was like, man, I get Gambino, Thundercat, and Big Dogs in one episode. I was like, man, this is a great episode for music.
Yeah, dude. Besides the Chop Suey ones, this was probably my favorite one for soundtrack in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely agree with that statement. But yeah, no, it was just one of the, I wasn't expecting Thundercat at all. I was like, because I love that song. Nobody move. So
Blood on the floor. As soon as that bass line hit it, I'm like, there's no
I was
way
like, the bass line on that song is just gold. Iconic even. But yeah, so like as a music definitely stayed on point. With on par with the rest of them. Definitely enjoyed and all of the songs that they put in this one, whether they fit entirely or not.
Well, this episode also tries to move along our relationship with Cece and Alex. And
Yeah.
it's the first time they drop any hint that like she's into her at all. And again,
Isn't
had
this
they
the
dropped-
one where Cece wears a bisexual flag-colored sweater the whole episode, or tank top?
if that's what the flag color is, then sure.
Right, it's the
It's the
yeah,
stripes. Yeah.
yeah. That's the
Oh.
only real indication you get till the end that she. Oh, she is.
I wasn't paying attention to that part. I just thought she was just wearing a striped shirt.
No, it is the bisexual flag colors.
Interesting. Yeah, didn't.
So,
Then,
I mean,
that
I
was together.
assume they did that on purpose.
I mean,
guess
there's a chance. I guess
they
me, I
never
was like, nope.
confirm if she's bisexual versus lesbian or whatever, but I think they were doing that as like a hint towards it.
Fair. So yeah, because it was. I mean, because she even says in this one, like, I didn't turn you down entirely. Like, I didn't know that we were having these feelings like towards each other. Yeah, that
Which still came out of nowhere, in my opinion.
Yeah, they
Kinda.
should have dropped hints a little bit earlier because at least like with Devin and Frankie.
right. Like, there's
Right off
there's
the
a
bat.
history there with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. With this one, it's
It just felt
because
so
like
random
the whole
and
using the
spliced
lip
in.
gloss thing, they weren't really like making googly eyes at each other. You know what I mean? Like it was just like a meeting, and
It just
she's
seemed like
"Oh,
friends.
like, yeah, it's like, oh, hey, I know what you did. Like you're a bad girl like me, kind of thing. Like I saw you steal that. That's the vibe I got. Was like, oh, we can be friends because you're, you know what I mean? You stole some lip gloss, and
100%.
I'm kind of a criminal or whatever, even though she technically isn't. But yeah, it's just that I didn't get that vibe either. They weren't making eyes at each other or doing nothing until essentially, that they dropped that like random kind of bit in the car. Oh well, yeah, I did it to impress a girl. Oh, you did it to impress a girl, huh? Yeah. Just like
Is it
what?
just me, or does it feel like they like wrote Alex as a dude, and then at the last second they're like, no, let's make it a chick because it can be a girl's names too, and they just wanted to have that for a little extra like token to have on their side too.
I don't
like
think
not much,
I think
but a little bit.
I could see it.
I-
That they're
well,
like,
it-
you know what would make this more interesting?
right.
Exactly. Like,
If it was too,
you know, it's popular with the kids right
girls or
now.
whatever. Well, because I mean, you're exactly right. Like, Alex is that is one of those like larger, I think, not hetero names, but the hell's the
Unisex.
term?
Androgynous.
Androgynous type names. What I mean? Like,
I assume
hear
it's
Alex
short.
and I
I
think
assume it's Alexandra.
it's probably Alexandra or Alexandria or something.
But what
yeah,
I think, I don't think that may have been the case though, because I think most guys in that situation would have either been just as involved with the fireworks and blown part of themselves off, or if that dude would have run and all that, he would have been like, "Yo, no, snitches get stitches. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you," and
well, no,
and
okay, so
aggressively caught that other dude, that little
yes,
snaky
I
guy.
could see that like from that like aspect and that point, but it is one of those things like you also got to remember like if it was a dude, it still would you still are a cop's kid, right?
Right, but I feel like the lines and the way things happen would have been written different.
I agree.
Very very possible. I'm just saying it's one of those ones that like you're still a cop's kid, so you're not overtly like a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Now, if you were like a hardened criminal type of situation where you actually, then 1000% that makes sense. But to me, like the getting in trouble and then like pursuing super hard like that isn't. I don't know. It fits, but it doesn't quite fit. If you get what I'm saying,
Well, with how
No,
hard they
I don't
shoehorned
get
in
it.
that relationship, I think they kind of did a lot of rewrites just to try to make a whole lot of other stuff fit.
work and fit. Yeah, and it's like I said, it is one of those ones that realistically, like, because her reasoning could be the same as a dude's reasoning too, right? Like, why do dudes do anything to impress girls? Realistically, right? And yeah, so like it is one of those ones that it does seem like it could have been written for a dude, and then just like, let's put a girl in there instead, and run with that or whatever. So I could see that.
I try to do some fact checking as far as what happened first, as far as casting or script writing, because I didn't know if maybe they just got the cast and then they're like, oh, we got to add something in. It doesn't tell me anything but that it was cast right after the first season of Goosebumps. So that not a very helpful statement there.
Doesn't really told me nothing. Thank you.
That makes no sense to me because the ending of the first season very much felt like they were going to continue that storyline.
apparently they're going to continue this storyline. I heard in like a book.
This storyline's over though.
That
Pretty
I was
much, yeah.
I was very confused when I read that.
Have you finished it, Keegan?
No, I'm only up to this
Then
episode.
why are you looking at stuff like that?
It popped up because it just sees me doing Goosebumps, and then
Then stop
Facebook's like,
reading
you
it.
might
Stop
like this.
Stop researching stuff. Just watch the damn show.
Yeah.
I didn't read it, but I just saw that that's what it said, and I was like, oh,
You
okay.
read
So
it.
I thought it ended more open-ended than apparently it does.
No, it doesn't at all.
It pretty much shuts the book on the entire storyline.
Oh,
I mean,
right.
I could see some of these characters possibly being part of like something else in the future, but not through this storyline. The storyline and things that are happening here, 100% everything gets closed up in my opinion.
What did you guys think of Trey's sudden change in character? Like he's a whole new person.
Oh
At least
yeah,
in
I
this
thought that was
episode.
weird.
No, that's just some douchebag backpedaling to try to keep the girl.
Right.
Agreed.
No, but babe, I've changed.
Yeah,
me getting crushed
not
by a
surprised
car
either.
and being a thing has changed my perspective. I'm not a douche anymore.
I almost died. Yeah, I love
Literally had
Devin.
the douche squashed out of me. It was crazy.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that he kissed Devin to like prove that he was okay with it. I don't know if that needed to be in there, but
It was a little weird. But
Yeah.
Hey, he got pretty excited when he saw his chain. I will say that.
hey,
yeah,
you
he
saved
could
that.
rust his neck green again.
his grandmama gave him that chain, you know?
Some people do get excited by shiny things.
And his grandmama has a car now, so
Well, outside of Trey's storyline, we also, kind of mentioned it earlier. David Schwimmer loses his body. His head is now off his body. Or is that him? I don't know. If it's like anything like Sale of the Basement, I was kind of thinking it was a clone of him, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay,
they kind of just divert from that storyline real quick. It's
Okay.
kind of like they
Also-
try to make it work, but it's definitely it's its own thing in its own way.
they also never make it very clear when you very much see that it's two different Dr. Brenners, like
Yeah,
switching
so-
personalities.
Absolutely.
That is never touched on again.
The swapping back and forth. Well,
Yep,
because it was
never.
one of those ones that I feel like it was like him, and then obviously the goo
No,
symbiote.
you would think, but no.
That would have actually been a fun conclusion to the series.
if they bring it back up or whatever.
They don't.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
it was. Yeah,
No,
it
I'm
was
telling you
super
now,
weird.
it never goes anywhere. Because I thought too, I was like, maybe this is how they're doing, like from the Stay Out of the Basement, where there's like a plant dad
Yeah,
and a real dad.
nothing.
No,
Didn't even.
I thought maybe
Calm
like
your
his personalities
expectations, for
were
sure.
splitting and he was gonna split. And when the head was off, I was like, oh, because he's not the real one. No, there's only one.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's
Weird.
stupid.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, because it was it was very weird that whole bipolar, biplanter, if you will.
I will
It's
tell you
just-
now, the place this season ends is nowhere where I thought it would go from the beginning.
It's wild.
Alright.
It just kind of comes out of nowhere. You're like, oh, it's that kind of story.
It's literally like you're chugging along, and then episode 7 happens, and you're like, okay, well now we're here. So okay.
You're like, oh, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now.
Is this what we're doing now? Yeah.
And then they invest 100% on that instead of any
Everything
paranormal
else.
aspect.
I will be honest, it kind of feel like I don't want to spoil anything, or I'll save it for the actual episode. Never mind. It might
We're
ruin it,
almost
so
there.
never mind.
We're almost
Yeah,
I will
spoilers.
say after finishing it, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more at the last one, but I did like season 1 more than this season purely because it kept to the paranormal / horror aspects way more than this one.
The whole time. Yeah.
So
Yeah, they
the
lean more
tone
into
was just
sci-fi
more-
and like mystery as opposed to horror and like actual monster stuff.
Yeah, there's actual like paranormal spirits, evil, etc., in the first season,
First one.
especially with like because they even have like Slappy in the first season.
Yeah, because he's like episode 7 or something like that. In that.
He's
That
in
one,
he's
right?
in he's in like 3 or 4 of them.
Oh, is he? Okay, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
remember
They also
They-
have a lot more of everything kind of interacting, and it's not like, okay, we showed you this element, now it's gone.
now it's
Like
yeah.
it actually keeps going with stuff. But the way they did Haunted Mask is a fucking travesty.
Oh,
it was that season's Monster Blood.
No, because they actually have the Haunted Mask at least.
Okay.
this
Monster
was just a
Blood.
mention of Monster Blood, and then
No, they don't even mention Monster Blood.
Oh wow.
There's just a thing that they're like, you could be
That's
like, oh, I
wild.
guess that's
Yeah.
the monster blood.
It wasn't
No.
even green.
They
You
very
have to
much
infer.
they
Yeah.
do haunted mask, but it's done stupid in my opinion. The way it looks is nowhere near as cool as it could have been.
Fair.
But it's still a mask that she wears that, gets attached to her. She kind of becomes that thing, but they link it back to literally they link it back to internet trolling.
Oh Jesus.
That's so great.
They try to, because she's using a mask of anonymity to
Yeah.
troll people at school on TikTok
So,
and shit.
Get out of here.
Anonymous.
And then she gets an actual mask, and like the more she does, it becomes like uglier and stuff, and
Oh jeez.
until she becomes a literal troll.
The troll. Jesus. Yeah, that's
Cringe.
It was
All right.
definitely you can definitely tell there was like some boomer in there.
That is
like-
definitely not bussing for real.
that is
Yeah.
not bussing
It was
all
not
over the
bussing.
place for sure.
The one that they actually did pretty decently though that I did like, I wish they would have gone further with it, but they do say cheese and die pretty well.
Yes.
Because they do find a camera that it shows like terrible things happening to people that then does happen. So they keep true. It was kind of like a kid's version of Final Destination. That's kind of what
it should be.
the book was. Yeah.
Right.
I didn't really like the way they handled one of my favorite Goosebumps books, which is the Cuckoo Clock of Doom. And that was fantastic because he like goes back in time and fucks up his existence. Like he literally tries to like change some things, and it turns out he never existed then because of what he did. And I believe that's one of the few Goosebump books that ends on a downer note because he fucks things up to the point where they can't be fixed.
That's like the ultimate butterfly effect kind of situation.
I think that probably started my love of time travel stories just because it was like it was as a kid, it was a mind fuck. But the way they handle it in this one, which I mean, I like time travel stuff in general, but instead of it being like time travel like that, it ends up being it creates a time loop.
Oof.
And one of the characters ends up just reliving like Groundhog Day kind of thing.
Groundhog Day in it?
Yeah, which it was still okay. It fit, like it was still at least time-based and stuff, but I liked it so much more when it was actual time travel and the kid just fucked up his life.
Sometimes, you can't go meddling with time.
Exactly. I mean, and yeah, I thought it was a good message. Like
time meddles back, man.
It was just like, hey, the past is the past. You got to let it go.
That's crazy, though. Literally wrote myself out of existence.
Yeah, because it has something to do with like his brother, and at first he fucks up and like makes it so that his brother doesn't exist because he was like annoying him or something.
Oh,
and then of course it's a regret, all this, and then in fixing it, I think he ends up making it so that he never exists.
He never exists.
Yeah, it's a crazy book for a kid.
a lot of trippy shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting on just how they worked a lot of things like into the season or whatever. I don't know.
The first season definitely took more, I think, from the actual books of saying we have to have this in here. Yeah. This one took more like it's inspired by this title.
And that's the thing is like I don't know.
Beyond Stay Out of the Basement, they did take heavily from that.
From that one. I think it could have. I don't know. I think it would work if they did it like individual episodes of like an hour, right? And you do them like the whole.
And do the story, kind of like what they used to do.
Do the story, right?
Yeah.
Like or I'm thinking more of like a Sherlock situation, right? You know how like each episode
they took
of
the
Sherlock
famous cases and it was like one story.
Yes, but it's like one story or one book or whatever, and it's like an hour and 20 minutes or an hour 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit longer than a regular 45-minute episode or whatever, right?
It's almost like a mini movie.
Like a mini movie. Yeah, and I think if you wanted to do maybe 4 or 5 of those a season, I think you could get away with that. Doing 4 or 5 little mini movies per, book per episode or whatever. I think it would work out well if you did that too. So the overarching story is kind of cool. You know what I mean? Trying to work everything into that, but I don't know. I think you lose a little bit of the not flavor, but you lose a little bit of the substance from each book.
I also wouldn't have minded if they took the American Horror route and had like a cast of characters that all change their character each season have one season each be one of the big books, like one season of Stay Out of the Basement, one whole season of Monster Blood, one, you know what I mean?
That would be cool. And that would be cool too. Yeah, especially if they did that or whatever, just reusing the same people, having guest stars or whatever for the season.
Exactly. Have David Schwimmer as like the big guest for this one, but then the usual cast. Because last season the big like guest was Justin Long.
Oh, nice.
And he was like a big main character. He was like one of the teachers that became very tied in with everything.
Yeah, and that would be super cool if they did that. If I'm being honest, like having, like a exactly that, just a big guest star or whatever for the season, like American Horror Story.
Because the truth is, Goosebumps it wasn't written to be a long form, long series kind of thing.
No,
it's meant to be quick, spine tingling stories.
Yeah,
like Twilight Zone for kids.
Exactly, it's exactly what it was. It's like Twilight Zone for kids.
Yeah.
Guys, let me ask you this. To me, it feels like, especially at this point, it feels like you can feel just producer or office or just some sort of intermingling with the stories, because it feels like they're kind of rushing through a lot of stuff. And then with how much of a tonal change that it takes, especially at the end of the series, it feels like there's a lot more meddling in this season than anything else, causing this to be a little bit more lackluster, trying to appeal to a wider audience.
Yeah, I think so. I think that they changed it a bit to try to make it appeal to people that may not have been in it just because it's Goosebumps.
Well, and I wonder too with some of the episode titles if they changed those to fit maybe some of the bigger books. Because I wouldn't be surprised maybe if the last one was supposed to be like the blob that ate everyone. Because that would almost make more sense than Monster Blood. Because it didn't even look like Monster Blood. As far as some of the characters, like this one wasn't as bad as last episode. As far as like it feels like they just tacked a lot of stuff on that. Like they crammed it in like after the fact or something. But yeah, you can feel something definitely intertwined with it.
Yeah, it feels like there was definitely a lot more focus groups that were included in the development of this season to try to make it as palatable as possible to as many people as possible.
They also, I do feel like they tried to age it up a little bit to try to get more older people into it, because the other one was a good mix of older but still some of the corniness of the original Goosebumps like TV show.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's not as dark quite.
Yeah, it's got that vibe of like the Agent Cody Banks movies of back in the day, where it's like, we're cool because we're for the older kids, and you get to be here with the older kids too now. And yeah, it gives that kind of vibe for sure.
Good old Malcolm in the Middle, being Frankie Muniz being an action star. Yeah,
I love Frankie Muniz.
That's cool though. Like it's just how they do that, or try to like incorporate some of it, right? Even though they don't fully hit the mark, I also do appreciate the fact that they're trying, right, to bring whatever it is, or like touch on a whole bunch of other things. Like I do give them credit for that, because I know
you can feel the love in there for sure. Like
right,
the actual
super difficult.
Yeah,
how did you?
Sorry, go ahead, Gigan.
No, my next question was just gonna be, how did you guys feel about like Jen having a videotape that kind of proved what happened, just like randomly hidden away, perfectly preserved under like two boulders
Just
or
the
behind
rock
two boulders? Yeah.
Super messed up.
for 20 years. Yeah. First of all, that tape wouldn't have survived. Second of all, yeah, it's one of those ones. It's like, dude, that's like, what? That's messed up. You've had me over here losing my mind, freaking out for 20 years or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like a whole thing, and it's like, but you've had a tape and all that kind of shit, like the whole time. Yeah, like I would have been rightfully upset, I think. If something like that would have happened to me, and then somebody had a video or whatever it is, like just especially the whole time for like 20 years while I'm over here, feeling guilt and remorse and whatever it is,
When it was like your
literally losing my
brother.
mind. Yeah, and yeah, no, I would be beyond.
I will say
upset.
though, as the end of the season, the last episode, a lot of it is in the past.
Yeah.
About the kids before they vanished.
Yeah.
And I kind of get why the tape was hidden.
Got it.
Purely because of the character of who she was. I get that she seems like the type that would be like, I'm not going to show this.
Well, hey, at least they touched upon it, so that means they thought about, hey, people are going to question this. So.
Well, see, I honestly was like surprised that she was surprised that he was upset. She's like, "Why are you so upset about this?"
Like, what? Why are you, bro? What? Are you kidding me? Yeah.
I kicked you in the nuts. Why are you mad at me about that? Why?
Right.
But why?
Yeah, I thought that was wild. I was like, really? That's okay. That's incredible that you feel this way, and you're curious as to why. I don't. All right. Tone deaf.
Yeah, and then the the episode ends off with the kids looking like they're gonna come together, but like we've said earlier, Devin goes
Has to
off
go see
'cause-
Hannah.
Yeah, just odd choice, especially like you guys are talking and she just is like, "Come with me to the fort." Like it just seems like a bad idea. I don't know, uh, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I mean, David and Grayson know where it goes. I don't.
Just wait until you see what happens when he follows Hannah. It is so dumb.
So dumb. Yeah.
I don't know if I have confidence right now in the next episode, Grayson.
Sorry,
None of
I
that.
thought the bet, like it's something else. It's a slice of like, oh my god, why did they do this?
So it's incredible, huh?
It's like resounding, fantastic. It's best episode of the series.
10 out of 10.
Absolutely.
Someone's gonna clip that now. Well, let's see. Nolan, any final thoughts with this episode? Anything you want to discuss?
Overall, it was one of those ones like I feel like a lot happened, but not a lot happened at the same time. This was like one of those weird kind of like in between episodes. That's not quite filler, like I said. It just is it's definitely progressing the story, but leaves you like this is one of those ones that definitely left you on a cliffhanger. With the the whole Dr. Schwimmer being taking his head off, and then the lady coming by and like picking it up and doing all that kind of stuff, like left it on a huge cliffhanger. And you're like, okay, I wonder where we're going from here. But yeah, this was definitely one of those episodes that started off with the concept of like, oh, we're gonna do this book. They did it for 5 minutes and then went back into the story, gave you like tidbits of the original book or whatever, and then that's they went about their business. But overall, it's still progressing the story. I think the music was good. The acting's still solid. Like, yeah, it's been a, now that we're pretty deep in, it's pretty good series so far.
Div, what about you? Any final thoughts on this episode?
Just, I mean, I think it was a little bit of a filler episode, but it was saved by probably the last 10 minutes. Actually progressing stuff. It's interesting that Hannah's there, being one of the kids that obviously was in the tape, seeing what's that situation, what's going on with that. And then the fact that his head got cut off and he's still talking and what's going on with that. And then why would Devin not want to find out what the hell's going on with his decapitated father? But sure, why not? This is the first one that's actually, at the end, this is the beginning of ramping us up towards the finale. So it's at least getting stuff moving.
Okay. Grayson.
Yeah, pretty similar. Series is still being well acted. I think David Schwimmer did a really good job, especially when he was about to lose his eye. That whole pause as he was about to unveil the whole gouging out of the eye from the sneeze, I really thought was really well done. Built a lot of tension in the actual scene. One thing we didn't talk about, but I really did want to bring up, was I really loved the fact when he had to put his eye back in and he's playing with his eye. I thought that was a good little bit of gross out, like kind of horror-ish,
Like body horror,
setup.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it was goofy, but at the same time still like weird enough to be interesting and at least entertaining enough for me. And then honestly, when he does like the split personality acting when talking to CJ, like telling him to run and stuff, I thought that was great.
Yes.
Like he really sold like him losing time and everything and not just reading lines off a page. So
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was definitely David Schwimmer's like highlight episode of the series, without a doubt. But yeah, pretty much a bottle episode. They kind of just have to, let some characters stew, use some book titles to kind of get through. Some would like to say they're still doing Goosebumps, but it felt like it was very much, a side road to get to the final straightaway of the plot. So, but yeah, I think it's a decent enough episode.
Yeah, I guess one thing I forgot too was when he's like trying to get CJ to drink like the goo or whatever. I was like, oh, that's very Stay Out of the Basement, because in Stay Out of the Basement, the plant dad is trying to get the kids.
Trying to get the
Yeah, and I was like, okay, again, more things are pulling from Stay Out of the Basement. For me, this was probably my favorite episode since like 1 and 2. Like it just felt better than the last two, as far as 3 and 4, where they were definitely fillers. There were at least parts in this one that really kind of had me invested, and I was like, okay, I'm really excited to kind of see where this goes. Maybe now I'm kind of worried about the next one because I was interested where that one was gonna go. But no, I still think it's good as far as like they're using like modern music. The cinematography still looks really good. The score itself, outside of the like mainstream music that they're using, sounds good, and the acting, I think, is getting better. So, just some of the writing, I think, is where it seems to stumble, and maybe not coherently putting everything together. But Nolan, rating on this one?
I'm gonna agree with what you said on that, Keegan, on like the last two being like meh in comparison. This one goes from, I don't know, the 6 and some change that the past two have been or whatever. I'll give this one a solid 7 because it adds a lot of interesting like plot points. So, and that's what I mean by like it was kind of filler, but it kind of wasn't filler. It was more of just like it touched on the book from, you know, of the same name or whatever, and then kind of like dove back into what the whole season's kind of been about. So it wasn't exactly like filler because a lot of stuff like happened, right? It just didn't seem like it was just placed there. So overall, I'd probably give this one. I would normally give it a 7, but the song choices bumped that up to probably about 7.5. So I'll give it a 7.5, because the song choices were absolutely fantastic.
David, what about you?
I'd give it a 7.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning with Nolan on this one here too. Like kind of what you brought out with the last two episodes being kind of meh. This definitely it's got a lot that it's trying to kind of progress toward, but using a book title at the same time. If anything, they should have just done like the Vanishing Part 3 of the actual like just for like a title, just to kind of keep the story moving along without having to waste a good book
Right.
on the actual episode. But overall, like the acting, the effects, the music, the overall like arcing storyline was interesting enough and kept me invested enough in it. I'm going to give it a solid 7.3. Yeah, I enjoyed it well enough. So
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna also, much like Nolan, to give it a 7.5. Just at least after watching it, I felt really excited to see where things were going. Maybe a lot of that's expectation. That sounds like maybe it's not going anywhere, but at least it had me kind of ramped up for where the story's going. The acting and everything, I think, meshed really well. There wasn't any parts that just really stood out that, oh, this just feels tacked on or just not filmed as good, the production quality or anything like that. So yeah, 7.5. Excited to see where it goes. I do wish this book in particular, like Monster Blood and everything else, was its own series, because I think you could have done some really fun things and spread it out over a season. But it is what it is. I can't change it now. But we'll be back next week again to talk more Goosebumps. If you want to see any of our projects, make sure to go to the description below. All the links to all the guys' work will be down there, as per usual. Or you can come hang out with us on our new Discord. Talk Goosebumps, be it the books, be it the series, whatever. We'll be there in the pop culture. And we have a channel, Society of Main Characters. We're going to start putting some more videos on there. We do have one that David helped edit and get that uploaded on the channel. It's our Midnight Library book. So go check it out. If you didn't catch the live stream there, go check it out on Society of Main Characters. And Grayson, we'll be back next week talking what movie?
the glorious, the great, the well-reviewed Captain America: A Brave New World.
That's you know what? I don't know. I'm kind of excited at this point. Like
Yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking
Yeah, we
about.
can see
Everybody
what-
that I know that's actually seen it has loved it.
really.
I'll take that.
I've talked to a handful of people that all went to the like early premieres and stuff. All of them that went they said they really enjoyed it. They said it feels like Marvel's back, that it was a really great story, and that they felt like he did justice to the Captain America name, and that the fight with him and Red Hulk is really, really well done, even though it's only like 5 minutes at the end.
Let's go. I'll take what I can get. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I
Alright.
will say the IMDb rating is much higher than the Rotten Tomatoes. So
Yeah, if one
I
doesn't
guess-
trust Rotten
I think
Tomatoes,
too many people on too many critics. It's a fucking comic book movie.
It is a
Where's
comic
the
book
mise
movie.
en scène in here? I don't feel any draw to the deeper emotional strife between Captain America and the Red Hulk.
Yeah, I just think that people are trying to get too much out of it. As long as it's not a Sonyverse movie, I'm sure it's great.
Not every movie needs to be Citizen Kane. We can have junk. It does not need to be like cinema all the time.
Yeah, a good popcorn movie is fun sometimes. We don't need to like deep thinking movies all the time.
Okay, no, Keegan, could you use that as an excuse to make us go watch shit like The Crow and try to get us to go see Craven? So
Yeah,
I wouldn't classify those as popcorn. I knew Crow was
no,
gonna
because
be
they made
bad.
me want to throw up for spending money on them.
damn.
And we
Throw
spent
up.
more money streaming it than if we could have found a dumb movie theater playing it. But it wasn't even the movie theater after 2 weeks.
David, I want you to look Danny Huston's just horrible CGI monster face in the face and tell him that. All right.
I gladly will.
Look, he's got to feed his, you know, he's got to pay a mortgage somewhere. That's just me. I got nothing else. My smart assness is kind of tapping out.
No,
But
but
yes, come back. We'll have lots of reviews for you.
Absolutely.
we'll see you soon.